Jerry, with you for an introduction, please.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Amir. Good morning, good afternoon, evening, and welcome panelists, members of MKAI's global family, MKAI champions, and guests wherever you are. Friends, we think our production team have put together another fascinating, insightful, and impactful event for you, and we really hope you enjoy it. We have what we believe to be a truly incredible lineup of distinguished panelists for you, this time from India, the United Kingdom, Sweden, the United States of America, and Switzerland, all of whom feature on the MKAI global list of amazing people. So, first of all, I'm honored and delighted to invite you to know our truly astounding first guest, who joins us today from Munich, Bavaria, Germany, who will set the scene for us. An innovation philosopher, storyteller, and regeneration proponent, she's been a visionary thinker and doer in the field of innovation for over 30 years. Whether running leadership seminars and workshops or speaking at conferences, whether coaching, mentoring, or teaching MBAs and executives, she brings her contagious positive energy to bear to inspire and open minds. Her credibility arises from an approach that combines her deep insights with the latest insights from scientific and social science research. And her passion for and knowledge of her work make her fun and engaging to work and talk with. She's an advisory board member for sustainability and innovation at J, an advisory board member of the Global Innovation Institute, an academic advisor and practitioner for 6 Eyes of Innovation, an international visiting professor at Karnavati University, forgive me then, and a visiting professor at Middlesex University. Please welcome Dr. Bettina von Stam.
Thank you very much, Jerry. And yes.
Now you see why I let Jerry do the intros, right?
It sort of was a very, very long one. Very well. Thank you very much. Anyway, and I am truly delighted to be here. And as I know, I can talk for forever and a day. I have made an effort to try to write my speech that I know I am fairly on time with what I'm doing. So the worship of billionaires is our worst religion. What does the title of today's session trigger in me? Agreement, disagreement, Schadenfreude? The wonderful German word for gloating about someone else's misfortune, like finally it's payback time. It would be quite an understandable reaction, given that according to the World Inequality Report, the top 0.01 richest individuals, which is 520,000 out of the 8 billion on Earth, hold about 11% of the world's wealth. The top 10% earn over 52% of global income, sharing even more, 76% of global wealth between them. In contrast, the bottom 50% of the population hold only 2% of global wealth. Jeffrey Sachs, considered to be one of the world's leading experts on economic development and the fight against poverty, stated that the cost to end poverty would be 175 billion per year for 20 years. So that's 3.5 trillion in total. Coming back to the global wealth, it's about 461 trillion, 352 are owned by the top 10%, meaning that 1% of their wealth should sort out world poverty. But even if we could get the top 10% to give up 1% of their wealth, well, that might sort out world poverty. I'm not quite sure it would address the fact that we seem to worship money, which is why, rather than addressing this statement head on, I'd like to start with a somewhat different perspective, one that focuses on how we measure the progress of humanity. So how do we do it? Well, we are aiming to answer that question. We are actually not really looking at progress, but we are using something else as proxy, growth. I'm sure we are all familiar with every country's obsession with GDP, the gross domestic product that's calculated by considering personal consumption expenditure, business investment, government spending, and net export and goods and services. The concept of GDP goes back to the end of the 18th century. It was developed further by an American economist in 1934 and was adopted as main measure of a country's economy well-being at the Bretton Woods Conference in 1944. As ever, to understand the concept, timing and location are critical and too often ignored or forgotten. Where was the world at in 1944? Much of it was in ruins, well, at least in the developed world and even more specifically Europe. A prime concern at the time was to create mechanisms on how to engage and cooperate after the end of the World War II, and to be able to measure improvements and progress of countries. It was accepted, seemingly without questioning, that growth was what governments around the globe should be focused on. Yet, if we look at the American Declaration of Independence, the role of government is not to facilitate growth, but, to quote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, amongst these life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." This duty of government is occasionally pointed out, for example, by Robert F. Kennedy, who said back in 1968, GDP is not measuring that which makes life worthwhile. The European Parliament, which stated in 2007 that GDP does not properly account for social and environmental costs and benefits, it is also difficult to achieve sustainable decision-making aiming at sustainable progress and well-being if welfare is being considered from a purely financial point of view only. Though other than the small state of Bhutan, I'm not aware of any country that has really translated such intense or realization into reality. As often said, what gets measured gets done. And so the vast majority of us are busy focusing on making money, earning our livings, securing our future. The focus on money seems to be so deeply ingrained in us that very few of us question it. Yet, what makes us happy? Again and again, research identifies the following: meaningful relationships with others, maintaining a pleasant hobby or work environment, giving back to the community or those in need. To go a step further, if we ask people on their deathbed about their greatest regrets, as Australian author and songwriter Bronnie Ware has done about a decade ago, none of them mentioned making more money, but here is what they said most frequently. "I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. I wish that I had let myself be happier." While I still hear some of you argue that material goods can provide happiness, research indicates that this is not the case. The wealthiest people are not necessarily the happiest, and to feel satisfaction and joy in life, wealth is not required. However, of course, I am aware that an estimated 700 million people, or approximately 9% of global population, are living in extreme poverty. That is, they are living less on $1.90 a day. Life without any financial resources is clearly misery. Just as an aside, if those 1 in 10 people living in poverty wanted to buy a cup of coffee in Switzerland, they have to save up for more than 3 days, as it is quite difficult to find a cup of coffee that's less than $6. So, where's the sweet spot? Research indicates that people are most happy after their necessities are met. Those of you familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs will know that the necessities include the 2 lower levels of the hierarchy: physiological needs, food, water, warmth, rest, and safety needs, being free from fear. I'm afraid that after that, it's more about looking on the inside for greater happiness. Why do I say that? If we are looking at the aspects of happy people, again, sort of just to state the research findings, they cultivate strong long-term relationships. They prefer time and having fun to having money or more money. They notice and are grateful for the good things in life. They are kind and like to contribute, and they don't worry too much about past and future. And again, all of this is research-based. So after a certain level of wealth, it is more about attitude and how we think than what we have. Obtaining any and all of the above lies in our hands. It just depends on what we believe our purpose and the aim of life to be. To come back to the religion of billionaires, I believe that the worship of money and thus billionaires comes from a wider societal focus on, or rather obsession with money, that was enshrined by choosing GDP as key measures of a country's well-being. If government wanted to take their responsibility for ensuring people's happiness seriously, different, more appropriate indicators and measures should be identified. Perhaps measures could be about overall levels of awareness and education, true equality for all, or how about contributions to preserving the system that sustains us all, planet Earth. Today, we certainly have all the data and technology to make such assessments possible. Without a healthy planet that supports and sustains us, all the money in the world will not make a difference. If indeed we had measures focused on happiness, what religion would we follow then?
Thank you so much. I think that was beautifully started, and I love the themes that you're bringing through there. And it's the biggest one, really, you know, that ultimately we're talking about happiness here, aren't we? Yes, there's fairness, inequality, and so on, but what we're looking for is this happiness, you know, rooting through everything that we do, and that certainly isn't coming in the forms that we're creating at the moment.